the podcast where we explore how artificial intelligence can revolutionize small business strategies. Today, we're joined by an exceptional panel of hosts. Let's meet them. First up, we have Andrew Wall,
Hey
a
guys.
chartered professional accountant and certified management accountant with over 20 years of experience in accounting and IT development. As the managing partner at CPA4it.ca, Andrew has transformed the firm into a leader in cloud accounting, earning recognition as one of the top 100 accounting influencers and one of the top 50 cloud accountants in North America. He's known for his passion for technology, especially cloud based solutions, and is a
Definitely true.
prominent figure in financial literacy and social media within the accounting field. Joining Andrew, we have Rachel Stedman, the customer service manager at CPA4IT. Rachel brings a wealth of experience in client relations and management, ensuring that clients receive top-notch service. Her role is vital in maintaining the high standards of customer engagement that CPA4IT is known for. Last but not least, Kasim Mukhtar joins us as a tech enthusiast and expert. Kasim brings a unique perspective on how technology, especially AI, can be leveraged in various business sectors to drive growth and efficiency. Today, they're here to guide us through the world of AI and its applications in business. From discussing the integration of diverse data formats to exploring predictive analytics, our hosts will provide invaluable insights into transforming data into powerful business strategies. So, without further ado, let's get started with an introduction to what's new in AI this week and embark on this journey to transform the way small businesses leverage technology.
Well, thank you, ChatGPT, for another amazing introduction.
I love the
And
intro.
hopefully everyone who is watching us live is enjoying these ChatGPT intros, which, by the way, Rachel is insisting we bring to the show
Yes,
each and every
yes,
week.
yes. I deserve all of that.
And
If
there's
you're trying
more.
to get me to love AI, it needs to flatter me when it gives me such great introductions.
It's doing a good job. It's
I
very
think it's
flattering.
doing a great job. And
Yeah.
It is.
another way that we've got to hopefully bring you on board with this AI journey is I know that you're not a big Apple fan. You're a big Android
Oh,
user.
yes.
And there's some news this
My
week about
blood.
Samsung. Have you heard about the new Ultra that's being released, the S24 that's being released this week? Or
So,
was announced this week that is being released?
so the one thing I will, just like how you guys geek out over AI, I geek out over a Samsung phone. I do my research, my data. There's actually a website where you can do side-by-side comparisons in terms of what the hardware, the specs, the everything. Okay, so that is something that does tickle my fancy. So yes, now I will admit I did notice a bit of a change with the Samsung S series in terms of the specs of some of the newer phones from S21 onwards. I currently have an S20 because I know, again, I'm loving the specs. And when I look at the S21, 22, the basics, it doesn't seem to really get me excited. But the Ultra, I'm like, okay, I'm a little excited. Okay. So yeah, so I did see that they are coming out with the new Ultra S24. I mean, here's the thing. My concern, I don't want to say my concerns, but if I can tap into the technology that it's offering on my phone, I'd be willing to stick with my phone. But if it's not, right, that might be something that I'm willing to look into breaking the piggy bank, right? If it has certain, features and tools that are beneficial to me. Like, I mean, the live translate is,
Oh, I
I
love
mean,
that. That's so cool. What
That's
boggles
awesome.
my mind is that they're doing
wow.
commercials and advertising the circle to search. And I think
Yeah,
you even said, didn't they always
yeah,
have that? Wasn't that just another
yeah, yeah,
image search on Google? But
yeah.
this live translation and being able to
Mhm.
speak with people around the world in
Yeah,
different
that's
languages in
different.
real time,
Yeah.
exciting stuff, I think.
A
Definitely
lot
good
of
for
these
people who are
features, a lot
maybe
of phones already have, but they've just packaged it in a new way.
right. That is
Mhm.
true. No, I think it has certain things that are intriguing me. I mean, and again, I'm that type of person too, where sometimes I will be going to like a cell phone store and I'm like geeking out and looking at it and I want to see and test it and what it provides. So I guess we'll see what the market is saying and if others decide that they want it. I mean, here's the thing. this phone does make Android users want to remain Android. If anybody's thinking of moving on the other side, you don't have to. This is pretty
Yeah,
good. It
that's true.
definitely has some amazing specs and, looks like quite a premium phone in terms of with the software as well.
Well, and also, I mean, I've seen like it's timing wise, Apple's released some updates with iOS 17 that a lot of people are liking around privacy and stuff like that. But that's a whole nother non-AI issue. And speaking of non-AI issues, I think one thing that I want to talk about briefly, which isn't even AI, but was announced this week, which is a new piece of technology that's going to fundamentally change the world. And Rachel, I don't think you've heard about this. It's a new battery called Betavolt. And it's actually a nuclear battery. Now, don't think like big radioactive nuclear energy. It's perfectly safe energy, and it's actually also not very large. It's called Betavolt. Right now, the version that they're working on is 100 millivolts. So millivolts are there's a million millivolts in a mini watts, I should say, and there's a million mini watts in a watt or microwatts.
Okay.
And a phone usually needs about 2 to 3 watts to run. So it's not powerful enough to run a phone yet or anything, but it can run little sort of devices and small devices for monitoring. And there are some really interesting applications, but they're working on a 1 watt version, which could power your watch. And what's revolutionary about this battery is it lasts for 50 years without needing to be recharged. Can you imagine never having to recharge your Apple Watch again?
Which dies in the day, by the way.
Yeah, right? my smartwatch, it's 48 hours. It's practically done.
If that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this technology is fundamental. And I know that we've got the World Economic Forum going on where we've got leaders in AI talking about artificial intelligence. And what they're talking about is how the need for power and artificial intelligence to fundamentally change, how human life can be impacted. And hand in hand with artificial intelligence comes the need for power and data processing, right? So being able to have simultaneously revolutions in artificial intelligence with revolutions in power and technology and battery capabilities means that I think in the next few years, we're going to see some revolutionary changes in the way that we work and the way our businesses run. So I'm pretty excited about that. But I know there's been some other news. Kasim, there's been some news with ChatGPT teams as well this week, hasn't there?
Oh, yes, which I feel like is very important because this is a discussion that a lot of people were having was to address the concern of the privacy of their data. And this like still kind of blows my mind is that we can't upload sensitive and private data onto ChatGPT without depersonalizing it. And even with that, there's a lot of liabilities and complications you have to be cognizant about, right? Now, with this new ChatGPT teams, what they're doing is that you're able to actually upload data into it, which they claim, I should say in air quotations, wouldn't be used to train any of their models. So it's all private, it's all secure, it's all confidential. Now, that to me is very interesting because the data which and this is something we'll talk about in the podcast later on as well, the data which actually we want to perform the analysis on using ChatGPT is the ones which it's sensitive data, right? It could be your sales figures, your revenue, any of client data that we're talking about, confidential stuff. But we couldn't do it before. And with this new ChatGPT teams, it is possible. There is a caveat though, is that if you switch to the new ChatGPT teams now, you're going to lose all of your previous chats, which for someone like me, it's a big problem. Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff that I go back to. Yeah, for sure. A lot of stuff
but
that you have to.
They're working on that, and there will be an update where you'll be able to roll over to teams and still keep all your history. I mean, the big question for anyone in the audience who's listening is, would you roll over to teams and keep 2 accounts just so that you can keep your historic data and still have all the privacy of that comes along with the teams version? I mean, because that's one of the things that I've been debating, and I'd love to know, what people think and whether they would. Pardon me?
Yeah, I think the data is important. The fact that they they don't have the capacity at this time to be able to convert, roll over the data, etc. It's like, figure it out. I think that's a very
Yeah.
essential
They will
component.
figure it out. You've got to realize the volume and the scale of people that they've got,
Right.
and so it's not quite as simple as what you might think. And the amount of data that people have been storing in their stored chats and history, it's not quite as simple as one might think of, like a copy and paste. And I guarantee you, they will solve for this. And they have, like, you've got to give them a lot of credit for the speed at which they are developing and improving. Like, literally every week here, we're talking about OpenAI, and every single week we've got an update on something new with ChatGPT. So, like, you got to give them credit there. The pace and the pace of change and the quality of what they're developing is pretty good. But I guess what's not so good is, along with the pace of change, we are seeing a bunch of issues, mostly around lawsuits. Again, Kasim, can you give us more background about what's been going on there?
So, as of last year, OpenAI has been getting sued a lot. And this is a big problem because they've been getting hit with a lot of lawsuits from it's New York Times, Game of Thrones book writer George R.R. Martin. Even he sued them because, and it's all around copyright law. Which, if anyone who's listening, if you're one of our OG listeners, if you go back to our earlier episodes, we discussed this right in the beginning as to what the implications could be in terms of copyright. Now, what's happening is that the New York Times and all of these people, they're suing OpenAI for billions of dollars. And the interesting part about it is that OpenAI is openly claiming that, yes, we're using copyrighted data because it's important to train our models to be able to provide accurate information, right? Sam Altman at the World Economic Forum recently, he talked about what he said was, and I'm paraphrasing it, so bear with me. What he said was that we shouldn't talk about just outrightly banning OpenAI from using this copyrighted data. Instead, the discussion should be how similar can ChatGPT outputs to be to these data pieces that it's being trained on, right? That's the discussion we should be focusing on. Is that what is that acceptable?
Or maybe more importantly, how can we remunerate the people whose content that we're leveraging? Maybe that's almost a more important discussion, right? Like, maybe we can keep the data, find a way to remunerate and give value back to the people who are still willing to create real value. Because, the thing is, if we're going to have all this ChatGPT generated content, we still need people out there in the real world doing real world research and providing real world content that is human written, for these AIs to continue to improve. If it's all just AI learning off of AI, it's going to, quickly devolve into something that no one will get any benefit out of. So in my opinion, there's got to be value to people continuing to write books, to continuing to put movies out, to continue, but yet to still have the power of that within AI. So to me, it's just figuring out the business model, right? It's like, how do we make sure that every time the AI calls and leverages this, that there is a value given back to the authors of the content? Like, think about Spotify, right? Like that model, like, hey, we had to figure out a new way to monetize the distribution of information because of Napster, right? Napster forced the music industry to fundamentally change their business model. And I think ChatGPT is going to change the business model for all forms of knowledge and all forms of content distribution, right? So I think if they can figure out this new business model, we'll be good.
And
my question is, did I freeze or did you guys freeze?
And Sam Altman has been talking about it constantly, how to monetize this content, how to, compensate these people. And with the GPT store coming out, it kind of seems like that they're going towards this direction, but who knows how long it will take to figure out that business model.
Yes, yeah, it will take some time to figure out. I mean, we are still very much at the early days of this technology, which to me is an exciting thing. I know for many of our listeners, that can be a scary and intimidating time. And again, I guess the purpose of this show is to make the AI more approachable for everyone else. So maybe what we should do is jump right into the topic of the day, which is data analytics, and how business owners can use ChatGPT and its data analysis or its code interpreter tool to help them with their business. And I think I want to start with sort of like just 5 general tips that if you are going to be using ChatGPT for data analysis, or if you're going to be using AI in general for data analysis, the 5 tips I would have for everyone is, first of all, you really do need to understand the capabilities and limitations. You
Yep.
also need to prep your data and your organization, sort of tidy it up to make sure it's not garbage in, garbage out. You've got to set very clear objectives. You've got to know what you're looking to get out of the tool. And you've got to, chat with a purpose. So figure out how you're actually going to interact with the AI tools. And then lastly, you have to interpret and apply the findings, right? So this is obviously very broad. We'll break this down in more detail. And of course, I want to give credit back to some of our past guests. Hitchendra Patel, who has been on one of our earlier shows, has a whole article on this, which we will be linking down in the show notes. But maybe, Kasim, we can talk with understanding its capabilities and limitations. I know you've done quite a bit of testing and playing around with Code Interpreter to analyze our own data. Maybe you can start by helping us understand some of its limitations.
Right. Here's the hot take, and I hope people don't hate me for it, but I feel like ChatGPT data analysis is not very good for people who are already familiar with powerful data analytics tools like Power BI or Excel or whatever it is that you're using, right? I mean, the reason why I say this is actually because I've done a lot of testing with it. And what I've found in my research and my results is that ChatGPT is very good at breaking down simple commands and simple prompts to alter your data. So for example, if you have a bunch of data with numbers in an Excel or a CSV file, and you want to break it down into simple line graphs, into simple bar graphs, and you want to sort it, filter it, visualize your data, stuff like that, perfect. ChatGPT should be your go-to tool in order to do that, right? Now, when you go into some of the more complex stuff, like you want to maybe identify some complex trends, you want to maybe work with a very large data set file, you want to maybe build dashboards that you can sort of update in real time, which you can still sort of do with a custom GPT, and you can train it on the data. That's where I feel like ChatGPT falls short, because while it is very capable, there's still some limitations from converting your prompt into a Python code, which will be used to interpret your data. So my advice to anyone who's listening and wants to start playing around with ChatGPT data analysis is to definitely go for it and learn yourself with learn the basics and familiarize yourself with the capabilities and the limitations. That will give you a huge idea of what you can do with it, what are the insights you can extract from it, and how you can apply it in your business, right? So those are sort of my findings, Andrew. I don't know if you agree with it or not, but yeah, that's what I've sort of discovered.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, to me, like if I'm going to go with like the 3 most important tips for understanding the limitations of ChatGPT when it comes to data analysis is you have to test the waters first and foremost, right? Like you need to get out there and you need to experiment and you need to play with ChatGPT so that you are aware of what the boundaries are and what it can and can't do. And you need to also make sure that what you're providing into the tool is good quality data, right? Garbage in, garbage out. Like I'm going to say that over and over and over again. But last but certainly not least is like you have to understand that AI is an assistant. It's not the boss, right? So you're there to reinforce, the information that ChatGPT can use and can provide for you, but it's there to aid you as a decision-making tool, not to replace you. It's a support system, sort of like your trusty sidekick to the superhero. It's the Robin to your Batman, right? It's there to help and assist you, not to replace you. And if you look at anyone who's deep into data analytics, they're going to tell you that AI is not going to replace you as someone who's doing data analysis, but someone who's using AI will very likely replace you because they're 10 steps ahead of where you are.
Couldn't agree more, definitely. And there's so when you play around with it, and I'm sure, Andrew, you can relate to this, you find out a lot of limitations which you didn't actually think they were there. So for example, what I did once was I uploaded a simple CSV file into ChatGPT and I asked it to run some analysis on it, right? And interestingly, that CSV file was extracted from our Google Analytics report, right? Now, what happened was, even though it was a simple CSV file, ChatGPT tried like 5, 6 times before being able to extract that data, and it tried and failed and tried and failed and wrote that code a bunch of times just because of a simple formatting issue in the first 5 or 6 rows, right? And that sort of informs you that if I, in my prompt, I would have said, hey, just ignore the first 6 rows and start
Mhm.
with this row and go up to whatever, then it wouldn't have been a problem. So as Andrew said, garbage in, garbage out actually is a very true thing you have to be aware of. So your output is going to be as good as your prompt and the input you're going to give it, right?
But if
Right.
someone is
So
junior into using Chat GDP and you're just starting to get in, I guess even for me, I would wonder, what are the questions? What should I ask it? I mean, the only thing I could think of is, okay, here's the data. Please advise what is useful or pertinent information from this data that I can use as a marketing strategy. Like, to me, it would have to be something. Now that might seem way too broad, but I guess, we're, yes, Andrew's favorite line, garbage in, garbage out. But I guess it's difficult to sort. It's almost like you have to sort through that garbage. And how do you really determine what is relevant and what are the specifics that you need to provide? And then even knowing the specifics of what exactly, because the consensus I'm getting is that you have to be precise with articulating what information you want to extract from this data. And for a lot of individuals that are green and, again, still very much testing out the waters, they might struggle quite a bit to be able to familiarize themselves and kind of know. And I mean, I can also see someone getting a little bit frustrated. It's like, this is not what I want, right?
and
So
I've
that's a
got some great
consensus.
news for you, Rachel. Like
Let's hear it.
there is a solve for that. That's GPTs. Because
Mm.
for all the people who struggle to figure out what are the right prompts to do, you've got GPTs where people have put all the time and energy into building that pre-prompt information so that you don't have to be as specific. And there are already chat GPTs out there specifically for doing, SEO and analysis, for marketing analysis. So there are GPTs out there that can
Mhm.
already like program. They already have some sample questions of things that you can ask. And above and beyond that, what I would say is like what you want to do before you dive into doing a data analysis is maybe do some work on using ChatGPT to understand like what are the right questions that I should be asking as
Mhm.
a sales and marketing person who's looking to do X, who's looking to do Y, right? And you've got to drill back into what are the right questions to ask. Absolutely. And you can leverage AI to give you some insights. But again, the key is, right, like it's you and AI together as a team. When it gives you out a bunch of questions, you have to look at those and goes, this is a good question. That's a great question. That's a stupid question. That's irrelevant. And go through and analyze what it's given you, take from and pull from that the information that would be usable, bring that into your sort of prompt library and save that for
Mhm.
going back into the data that you're going to then
Mhm.
put into it. So not only are the prompts critical and essential, but also it's going to be the data that you put into it. As Kasim said earlier, garbage in, garbage out. As I said earlier, as I will say 50
Mhm.
million times episode on using ChatGPT to analyze your data, it's garbage in, garbage out. So how do you make sure you're not putting garbage in? Like if you're looking for tips on how to standardize your data inputs, uniformity is going to be the most important thing, right? Like if you're using multiple worksheets, do they use the same headings and tables? If you've got duplicates in that data, are you removing those duplicates? Are there
Mhm.
missing information or missing values? Like fill in those blanks, right?
Right.
And then you can begin to categorize and classify.
Mhm.
And if you can, to the best you can, make sure your data is sorted, make sure it's labeled, use data validation checks in Excel before you pull this information over, right? You want to take a bit of time to make sure you're bringing over clean data and do a
Mhm.
quality check on that data before you bring it over, right? Like,
Right.
and that's really going to be, in my opinion, the key to making sure that you've got standardized, good quality data inputs before you start asking any questions of it.
Well, here's another thing though, Andrew. So I mean, of course, data is different for all different industries and according to what you're looking for. So I mean, whether you're looking to use ChatGPT to analyze data to help in terms of your day-to-day operations of your business or the marketing or any of the different aspects. So, I mean, for larger companies, I can definitely see or hope that they have a more robust system to accumulate their data, CRM, whatever the case is, which, you can typically export. But what about for smaller businesses that maybe they're just getting in and they don't even know what data they should start to collect? And unfortunately, there's limitations in what they can input because they weren't necessarily being cognizant of these all of the things that I should be keeping to be able to help me for decision making in the future. How do they kind of reach at that level with good data?
Yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally small businesses across the board are not tracking enough information. Yeah,
I
I mean,
agree.
I mean,
I
it's
would agree on
fundamental.
that.
Like across the board, businesses are not tracking enough information and not enough data. So I think the key is like, I mean, we've always been big believers in, like, we have like over 200 data points that we track across our
Oh, Lord.
customers. We use tools like Google Analytics. We want to pull as much information as we can, and we still probably are at the tip of the iceberg of the amount of data that we could use, and we're
Mhm.
constantly finding ways to go out for more information. Sorry, what was that, Rachel?
But here's the thing, though. I mean, I think, for example, like, yes, we have data
I think I've got a delay.
in abundance. You do have a bit of a delay.
Kasim, what are your thoughts on data and how much data that clients should and can be tracking for their small business and how they can use it?
Do you want to take this, Rach? You were saying something.
Well, I'll jump back into, because Andrew, we are having a bit of a lag on your end. Here's the thing. I think that for us, we have a ton of data, and we have data that are for many, many years, right? I think we have client data, Andrew. I think through our CRM. I'm sorry, our CPA, maybe over 20 years, right? So that information, is very useful to us for our business, even from, let's say, for example, a marketing standpoint. Like, for example, we were able to identify, the lifetime value of our clients, how long clients have been with us. And it really does help in terms of shape, looking at what is important to the business, right? We use a lot of our data for KPIs, which is useful. I think for small businesses, I guess they need to first identify what information do you think you need on an ongoing basis to analyze that's going to help shape the direction and the decisions that you're going to make in your business, right? I think every business person has to have that first and foremost. What is it that you're looking to do? And then how does it have a value? And start keeping track. I mean, even if a good CRM, so for example, we have our CRM, and then, we can extract it into a CSV file and then use ChatGPT to kind of decipher the information that we're looking for.
I think basic stuff
Absolutely.
which across the board applies to every small business is to keep track of stuff like your revenue, your profit, trends, how it trends over the year, so you can see if there are any dips and which months do you do well and which months you did not do well. And then stuff related to marketing and sales could be your customer acquisition cost, how much you're spending on marketing, what your sales are. And when we do a deep dive into marketing itself to understand really how everything works, you can do cost per click, you can do cost per conversion, whatever your conversion goal is. So, I mean, as Andrew said, we might be at the tip of the iceberg, and hopefully, I think, Andrew, we have you back now, right? Yeah, the delay is solved. So,
I think so. Hopefully,
yeah. So it's, as Andrew said, we're probably at the tip of the iceberg in terms of what data we can pull and extract insights from. But yeah, so that's where as Rachel also mentioned, that's where probably every small business owner should start with this basic stuff.
Yeah, and I am biased as an accountant, but that financial data that you talk about is probably data that every single business owner has that they have available where they can get value. And all too often, we as accountants are so disappointed because clients usually only come to us for compliance. They're doing it to file a tax return. They're not doing it to actually use the data that they have access to make informed decisions. And hopefully we're helping our clients with that. And there are accountants out there that are helping their clients to use financial data to make decisions. But now that you can use AI, you can start building out budgets, which way too many businesses don't have budgets because they don't know how to, or don't know how to build it, or don't know what the value of putting together a budget is. But now you can load in your financial information, and if you've got teams, it's not going to be, you're not worried about it being the AI being trained on your financial data, and your data is safe and secure. You can load in your financial information, and if you are worried about it, you can depersonalize it and not put in your company information. Bring in your financial information and have it start with just putting together like, hey, based on the last 5 years trends, can you predict what my budget is going to look like for the next 5 years or the next 3 years? You can start to do analysis on individual products that you sell to better understand what products are more profitable. You can use it to do analysis to understand if you have any cyclical nature to your business. You can use it to analyze your customers. There is so much value that you can get out of your financial data. And you have it. And if you're using anything like a QuickBooks Online or a Xero, that data is available to you. You may have to go and export it, but it's there for you. And that's data that every business has, no matter what business that you're in. And like you said, Kasim, second to that is the sales and marketing information. And if you're not already using Google Analytics for your website, and you're not using something like Metricool to track your social media analytics, I strongly encourage you to go out and do this. Like, Google Analytics is free, so there's really no reason not to do that. And if you don't know how to implement it, ask ChatGPT. Right?
Here's a tip for everyone watching. In order to save yourself millions of dollars down the line in lawsuits, I would suggest that always depersonalize your data before uploading it to any large language model. Because what happened after the Cambridge Analytica Facebook scandal, I don't trust anyone out there with my data. Like, with the new feature that iOS rolled out, it has caused some stir, but they have this new feature where it's like, ask app not to track your data. I always turn it on. I mean, I'm like, nope, I'm not having any of it. I don't want my data to be, leaked to any outsiders. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I have a concern about
now,
security,
what about
and data like that. So yeah, I would be a little, I mean, again, most people might just put everything in. You know me, I am the skeptic here. I would be afraid to put anything that is, sensitive information about my business.
Yeah, so depersonalize it. Don't put in client names. Do a find and replace your customers' names with generic names, and so you can do ways to depersonalize the data and bring it in. But I think that sort of brings us to that setting your objective, like, and what you're hoping to get out of the data analysis. So if I were tips on how to set a clear objective for what you're going to do with data analysis, is to make sure that you're phrasing your questions clearly and concisely. You want to provide context about it. So the more that you can give it necessary background information, this will help the AI to understand the scope and the specifics of what it is exactly you're asking. Try to use the relevant keywords to the best of your ability. And if you have complex queries, break those down into sort of step-by-step questions, because one of the things that we'll find with AI across the board is it's not going to print out a 50-page report for you, right? But it can give you that 50-page analysis if you go page by page and work in sort of an iterative dialogue and go back and forth in the conversation. And if you can even leverage examples to illustrate clearly scenarios that make your query more concrete, this will help the AI to understand the context even better. And of course, as you continue to go through the chat and the conversation, and I do want you to think of it as a conversation, is clarify those misunderstandings, right? Like, if ChatGPT responds and shows something that isn't what you're looking for, is too vague, you want to clarify that and correct it immediately. Don't just go on and ask another question. Say, no, that's not what I was looking for. What I'm looking for, and then you provide a little bit more context, a little bit more clarity to make sure that you're getting the answers that you want. and be specific with your expectations, right? And then when you're done, you've got this 50 long page report. You can ask it to go back in and summarize that lengthy input to give you concise summaries that you can actually use in a useful way for your business, right? Kasim, do you have any other tips or ideas and things that people could do to help be more accurate with their data input?
Sure. So here's why I think AI is so powerful, because it can not only help you with your data analysis, but it can actually define those goals and those prompts that you want to give it, and those metrics that you want to track in terms of getting those insights. So here's a really interesting story, because and this is to everyone watching. So we were sitting in our marketing meeting. Rachel and Andrew, a couple of other colleagues were there as well. So what we did was we sort of had this discussion where we wanted to track data. We wanted to make sure that we wanted to track our performance, how we're doing, because it's important, like every month, every 2 months, whatever it is, to find out how the past month went, where the improvement opportunities are, stuff like that. So we kind of sat and we were like, okay, how do we come up with those KPIs and those metrics that we want to track? And lo and behold, Andrew pulled up ChatGPT. He entered in all of yeah, the music. He entered in all of our job descriptions, what our goals were, what we were doing, and boom, it gave us a list of KPIs. Now, I will admit, some of them not so easy to track, some of them not good, but most of them were really, really nice. And to this day, like, we're all of our KPI reviews that we do every month, we rely on those metrics that ChatGPT came up with, and they inform us a lot on what insights we can extract from it, how we can improve, and we can sort of analyze the trends and stuff like that. So my biggest advice, and this is, we keep going back to this, and this is a theme which is brought up in our previous episodes as well, is don't go into using these functions without a plan, right? Because your output and your insights are only going to be as good as your input and your prompts, and your input and your prompts are only going to be good when you have a certain foundation and a certain plan backing those up and informing those, right? So it's really important to come up with those metrics, play around with ChatGPT, with data analysis, to find out which numbers you should be focusing on, because these numbers vary with industry, with different niches, So yeah, that's my main tip to everyone watching, is to always come up with a plan and play around with it to see which metrics you should be tracking.
Right, but as you rightly pointed out, though, it's the combination of AI and IQ together that get you the real results, because this analysis that we went through with our business was helpful, but not every KPI that it recommended were actually KPIs that we ended up implementing. We had to step back and look at our business and say, we can't just take what AI gives us and accept it. We have to take the AI and apply the IQ and look at how our business impacts the information that it gave us, and how the information it gave us impacts our business, and then make decisions on what KPIs that it suggested would actually truly be relevant. But yes, those ones that we chose, that combination of AI and IQ, turned out to be great KPIs for us to be able to track and measure our business, right?
For sure. Here's a question.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Kasim.
So, Rachel, from a sales perspective, what's your sort of wish list from ChatGPT in terms of data analysis?
My wish list. Well, now Andrew said AI cannot replace me. It's only my Robin, and I guess I'm that woman.
But someone using AI can.
Someone using AI can. I mean, here's the thing. I do, before we go into the wish list though, what I think was, because I think that's the whole thing. Sometimes people don't know what they're looking for from the information. And I think a lot of people don't seem to understand the importance of that data. Most people might think, okay, it was the past. It happened. It is what it is. It gives you just, statistical information. But for us in particular, the statistical information that it gave us allows us to be able to map what our strategies would be on a go-forward basis, right? Because, for example, so we've realized, although accounting is all year round, we do have different seasonal impacts, right? And we can look, it's not just a matter of month over month, but for example, Andrew, when we were looking at our retentions and we're looking at our numbers, and it's like, oh yeah, January is normally a month where we have a lot of people retaining us, and go figure, January has really picked up steam. So it allows us to also be able to cater our different strategies based on when we typically have more clients coming in versus, for example, again, summertime. We all know with our clients, everybody's checked out for the summer, right? So we know we're not going hardcore on marketing strategies during the summer, right? So the information really is, it is beneficial. I think the only thing from, the data perspective, and this is maybe something I'll go back to because this is maybe what I would like. The thing is, it's one thing if you're using data to do year over year, right? Analysis. But then how do you combat it where, okay, we ran this data, okay, and it had historical data up until December, and now we want to do this monthly, or we want to do this quarterly. So, I mean, is it a matter that now I have to be constantly from the scratch, okay, import all of the information to be able to get it out? So I mean, if it had some functionality where you can say, okay, based on this particular report, here's additional data, can you include this data? So that's my only thing that I think, if you constantly have to be bombarded by putting all of this information in when you have newer information, I would not be a big fan of that.
So what I'd like you to think of it, Rachel, is think of it like another team member. Like we bring all our reporting monthly, right? So all that reporting monthly, we want to say, like, imagine just that meeting, just saying, hey, what feedback can you give us on this? And I think my connection is cutting out on me again.
We can hear you. You're kind of slowly moving. Did we lose you, Andrew?
I think it's back.
Are you guys there?
Yep. Okay, you're there.
So you guys are still here with me? Thank you. Sorry. I have tried absolutely everything to get a good connection. Yeah, I'm kind of slow. So maybe, like, I guess it just takes so much bandwidth to shove all three faces over. Maybe I should look to moving to I don't think so, but
okay, I think we're losing him just a little bit again. So I guess, Kasim, then this is where I will ask you a question. So, using the historical data that individuals have, right? What besides, for example, like I know Andrew used the example of, using financial data to have future budgets, right? But what are the key, I guess, marketing things or marketing forecasts or outputs can you get from historical data to kind of help business owners move forward?
Right. So I think that's really important. And here's my sort of main, I guess, wish list, you could say, in terms of marketing data from ChatGPT. So, think of it this way. When you hire a data analyst, what they do is that they analyze your data, they can do some trends, they can give you insights, and they can potentially give you forecasts. And that's one of the things that I really, hope one day that ChatGPT can do, is where I can tell it that, hey, ChatGPT, go out, look at the internet, look at the economy, look at the stock market, look at whatever it is that you need to look at in terms of my business, and tell me how that's going to impact me. And look at my numbers and tell me how that's going to impact my sales, my customer acquisition, my marketing costs, and stuff like that. And I think if we can sort of do that predictions and based on past data, as you said, and future forecasting, I think that's going to be so powerful, because essentially you'll have this time machine which will warn you, okay, now these are the things you need to be aware of and adapt accordingly. And it can actually tell you that, okay, these are the months where your sales are going to go up, so be prepared according to that. I think that's going to be very, very powerful, not just in sales and marketing, but all across the board.
But here's the thing, though. You hope that the response will never be, you are going to be bankrupt in 3 to 5 years, so you might as well quit while you're before you start.
I might as well pack up if the AI bot is telling you that you're going to go bankrupt.
Yeah,
But
well, then you better put
This
together your
is
retirement plan now, right?
yeah,
I'd rather know. Wouldn't you rather know than just wake up and be
yeah,
bankrupt?
yeah, exactly.
Um, I mean, for me, if I'm looking at what am I looking for in data analysis, whether it's AI or human, is I'm looking for actionable insights, right? Like
right.
findings that can actually, they're not just data points, but things that we can hone in on to provide like practical, implementable steps that we can use for our business to make fundamental changes, right?
Right.
And things that do consider the broader implications of what's going on in the economy, like both the macro economy as well as maybe the micro and local economies specific to our industry and niche. So I want to combine that big picture information with our own proprietary data that we've tracked to provide actionable insights to help my business grow. That's what I'm looking for in data analysis. And that is done by doing a collaborative interpretation of, again, AI and IQ together driving the growth of your business, because you have to have the knowledge of your business to know
Yeah.
more information about your niche, to provide it the information about the trends about the seasonality in your own business. But you can ask it to certainly go out there and look at it and ask it to do analysis on, hey, what's the macroeconomic trend based on, I don't know, interest rates or inflation, and how might that impact my business based on the information that I've provided you about who my client is, about the nature of my business and its seasonality. And when you combine the combination of the artificial intelligence and that IQ, you will get actionable insights that will drive the wealth of your business, right? And that's really the fundamental reason we're all here, right? Is we're looking for actionable insights that we can take back and implement in our business to help it grow and succeed.
Yeah.
Here's a
Now,
comment, and I wonder if you could pull it up by Iman, because I want to address this. It's a really, important thing which I see a lot of people talk about. Now, there's this inherent sort of, communication and this sort of topic that people discuss, where it's how to consider the bias, the
yeah,
ethical considerations in data analysis and stuff like that. Here's what I'll say to that: you don't need to worry about data bias and ethical considerations if you're giving it numbers that we just talked about: marketing,
yeah,
sales, revenue,
Right.
budgeting, stuff like that. That's something which you don't need to worry about. It's just numbers. It's going to do a prediction. There's no bias involved. There's no ethical and considerations. Obviously, you need to depersonalize data. That's an ethical consideration. That's stuff you don't need to worry about. Now, when we talk about some other implementations, like doing GPTs, custom GPTs on certain subjects like psychology or political science, history, for example, stuff where there could be an inherent bias in the information you're training it on. My answer to that is ChatGPT is already biased, right?
yeah,
Because it's developed by humans. It has that inherent bias
Yeah.
of the people who developed it. Whether it's a good bias or it's not a good bias, that's debatable. I saw Elon Musk, I think, tweeted where they sort of did a comparison, which I think was hilarious, where someone asked ChatGPT to write a poem praising Donald Trump, and ChatGPT didn't do it. But then when they asked it to do one for Joe Biden, it wrote a poem, right? So I mean
Interesting.
that's interesting, but I think with these inherent biases, these are going to exist. You can't get around that, right? And that's where it goes back to your own IQ, interpreting data yourself and making sure that everything that is regurgitated or you get the output from ChatGPT, you always review it before you actually.
I'm going to argue that you can get around the inherent bias. And I think you can get around the inherent bias by providing it context and providing it the information necessary. Because I think like there is going to be inherent bias. Like if you ask for it for, based on the economy, it's probably going to pull economic information from the largest economy or North America or something like that, or the economy
Right.
which has the most information online. But by providing it information by saying, hey, can you provide it based on the economy in Karachi, India, or right? Like you can get more specific. You can provide it the context to override the biases. or at least some of them. The hard part is the inherent or unknown biases that you have trouble getting around, because there's biases that you don't even think about. And
Yeah.
these are the biases that, I mean, they exist in the real world as much as they exist with AI, right? And I mean, the only way to get past those, inherent biases is to educate yourself and to learn more about them, and then use that knowledge as context for yourself, just as you would for the AI, right? And so there are ways that you can do that. But we do also have another question in here about how do you actually use or ensure that the AI and data analysis solutions are scalable and can accommodate growing data volumes and the evolving business needs? Because that can be a problem, if you start, I don't think any business that I know of is anywhere near the problem of hitting ceilings as far as the context limitations of ChatGPT with the amount of data that they have. But eventually that is going to become a problem. And how do we overcome those problems? I don't know if you have any insights, Kasim. I think that's a much more difficult problem to solve if you are hitting those solutions. And I guess that means that you might have to rely on traditional products, because there are, enterprise level solutions out there that are, I'm sure, going to be implementing AI into their enterprise level solutions. That's going through more of a system, traditional system architecture, and running it through it, and then maybe doing some analysis on its analysis. I'm not sure. Do you have any thoughts or insights on that?
Yeah, so I think it kind of goes back to the point I made in the beginning of the podcast. If you are a beginner in data analysis, ChatGPT is really good for you, right?
Great.
It can do a lot of your basic level
It's
functions.
not an
And
enterprise data analysis tool, is it? That's not what it's
exactly,
for.
if you're a beginner, you don't have that volume of data to begin with to perform all this analysis on, right? So
Yeah.
on that front, you're golden. You don't need to worry about it. But if you have a lot of data with a lot of data points, like even in our company, like with our monthly KPI reporting and our social media and our Google Analytics, I feel more comfortable still using some of those enterprise solutions that are out there, just because there's a lot of functionality. It's very, you don't have to worry about reaching that limit, or will it break or will it not break. You can, it's very scalable. It's very easy to use. So if you're a pro, ChatGPT might not be the way to go. But if you're starting out in your data analysis journey, if you're a small business and you're just getting into the world of data and seeing what insights can I extract from all of these data points that have been sitting, I think go for it. That's perfect for you, and that won't be an issue.
Yeah,
It is
I mean,
definitely a good starting point for sure. Like for the beginners, and a lot of small businesses, again, they're maybe not cognizant of the importance of prior data to scale the business. So even if they start somewhere small, and then eventually they will become more familiarized with the use of ChatGPT to maybe hone in or specify a little bit more, right?
yeah. And I guess, I mean, probably what a lot of people are looking for are some very, very real world, tangible examples of how you actually get into ChatGPT and start using it for data analysis. And for those of you who are still with us, who've stuck through to the end, we've got some good news for you. So we're going to be putting a course together with some actual use cases where Kasim has gone into ChatGPT, taken some of our own information that is non-proprietary, nothing we're worried about, sharing things like our social media interactions and tweets, and show you how we're actually able to use that to do some data analysis. That, again, will be put onto our North Stars platform. And if you want a free copy of it, what do you do, Kasim? Drop a link.
Comment AI unlocked.
Comment AI unlocked down below. Exactly. And I think, there was one other question that came up in the show, which was that, many organizations have legacy systems. How can businesses seamlessly integrate those AI capabilities? And I would say the number one way that I would look at integrating legacy systems ties back to what Rachel asked earlier, which is, well, if you have to keep loading this information every month, it's just a pain in the butt. And I was trying to say before I got cut off is, like, think of it like our monthly marketing meeting, right? Like, you would take your data and it's just another team member who's going to provide their analysis on these results to help us, make better decisions. But that can be done automatically by using tools like Zapier, right? If you're storing this in an Excel file, you can upload that to a Google Doc. That can trigger an automation, which would go over to either OpenAI or a GPT or another AI tool to be able to do the analysis. So there are ways to integrate, data that is on a legacy system, or even data that's not natively available through the API of Zapier. If it's coming out in a CSV, you can just dump that in a Google Doc or a shared folder that is accessible by Zapier to be able to connect and integrate that tool. So, I think that's an important aspect, and an important tool is integrating the automations with the legacy and dynamic data that's going to be coming out every single month. You don't need to necessarily have yourself, Rachel, log in and upload that information. What we can simply do is save our reports to a shared folder that is accessible by Zapier. As soon as Zapier sees that report, it's going to send it over to ChatGPT. It's going to run its analysis. It's going to spit back out its report and its findings. And if you want to go back into the chat and keep working with it, you're free to, right?
Here's my
I'm here taking notes. I'm like, what am I going to do to update the use for my next month's KPI report?
Here's my point of view. If you're using a system which doesn't have AI capabilities right now, chances are it's going to go obsolete in the next 4 to 5 years. Or somehow it's going to start introducing AI features so that it doesn't go obsolete, right? Because even with the Microsoft Office suite that we're using, even in Excel and PowerPoint and Word and stuff like that, they've started integrating AI features, right?
Yeah.
So, and with Zapier, even I was working with it, and even though their AI capabilities are kind of limited, but you can now just build out zaps, build out automations by typing in your workflow. And I think that's really powerful and really interesting to see these sort of systems which have been implemented over the past decades to start incorporating AI into their functionalities, right? Because it really helps with the efficiency, and it's the way forward to be able to extract more by doing less.
Yeah.
Now, here's a question I want to throw in, though. I know with 3 minutes to go. Client perspective. I mean, sometimes we're thinking about it business wise, but then from a client perspective, if a client knows that business owners are using all of this technology, one, it really depends, first of all, whether or not they feel comfortable or not. But then two, just from a business perspective, right? If I know I'm a client and you guys are using all this AI tools and technology, what if a client's deciding, well, I can go to a non-CPA that's a professional, that they have access to these different tools, right? So, that's one component. Or what if a client says to us, hey, I know you guys are spending less time using all this AI and all my data to spit out a report. What's the expectations in terms of from a fees or services rendered, et cetera, right? And I guess, how much disclosure do we have to tell clients that, look, some or all of your data, some of your information is being used, although we're using it for good purposes, but, how would clients feel about that?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't use client data right now unless you are on either an enterprise level or a Teams version. I don't think we're at the point where you can do that. You can use depersonalized data. I know that there are Wild West gunslingers out there who are doing that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recommend it. But I think that the key is, yes, you should, whether you're obligated to or not, you should certainly be providing transparency to your customers if you're going to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
To hit the nail on the head when it comes to the question of, well, if people think that you're using AI and you're more efficient and more effective, should your fees be going down accordingly? It's sort of like the plumber. You're not paying him for the time that he's there. You're paying him for the knowledge and the expertise that he has how to fix and solve your problems. And there's a great story that I can't do justice in like the 53 seconds we have left here. We'll have to put it in the show notes. It's a story that Ron Baker always talks about this handyman who came in and told him about the thing. He's like, well, I could do that and fix it myself for free. He's like, yeah, then go ahead. You're welcome to do that. Like, we have freedom of choice, but what you're paying me for is the years and knowledge of expertise, time I put into building these workflows, to prompting these systems. Like, if we were at the point of time where it was a commodity and it took no knowledge and expertise to use these tools, then that's one thing, but that's not where we are. Right. Yeah. We're in a process where you have to put in time and effort to learn these technologies and evolve. And that's a value, and our clients see it. And, not every client will see that. And it does affect the type of client that you're targeting. And you need to be aware of that. Right. The nature of our business, we specialize primarily in IT consultants and realtors and doctors, and they like that we're at the forefront of technology.
Yeah.
Right? As long as we're doing it safely and securely, and we are the stewards of their data, we have to safeguard that. But as long as we're doing that and we're doing it and leveraging the latest in technology, they love it. They want us doing it.
One last thing I would like to say is that if this were the case, actually, then WebMD would have put doctors out of jobs years ago. So, I mean, there's always going to be value, as Andrew said, that year's worth of experience for sure.
Yeah, it's the IQ and AI combined. That's my new tagline. We'll see you back next week with some more AI and IQ combinations to bring you more value. And don't forget to drop the comment AI Unlocked down if you'd like to get a copy of the North Stars course that's going to show you in real world examples how to actually leverage data analysis using AI. So thanks everyone, and have a great week. Bye for now.
Bye guys.